Edinburgh, 14th of March, 1871. Samuel Clafton, a weaver residing at Millbank, near Stow, in the county of Edinburgh, declares,
"The prisoner is my wife. She's about 26 years of age. I first became acquainted with her about 7 years ago. I was then working at Leslie in Fifeshire, and the prisoner worked in one of the mills there. She lived with her aunt, Mrs. Scott. I was at Leslie for 3 or 4 months, and during that time I became acquainted with and courted the prisoner with a view to marriage. I left Leslie and went to work at Selkirk. I corresponded with the prisoner when I was at Selkirk, and I was married to her at the English church at Selkirk on the 28th of November 1864. We were married under my proper name, which is Samuel Clafton, but since I came back to Scotland, I have always went under the name of John Smith. Our children, however, to be afterwards referred to, were registered as Clafton. My reason for taking the name of Smith was that a girl at Dewsbury had a child, and she named me as the father. I was not the father, and rather than pay for the child, I left the district and came back to Scotland, and I took the name of Smith so that I might not be found out. Since the birth of a stillborn child, the prisoner has never been able to contain her water. She often wet the bed and her clothes. Indeed, the water just came from her wherever she was. She left the infirmary uncured and is still in the same state. She has not been extra strong since. I never thought there was anything wrong with her mind, but at times she thought and fretted a great deal over her trouble. I never hear her threaten to take away her life or do herself injury. She bore a son, Daniel Clafton, to me on the 31st of October 1867, and a daughter, Isabella Clafton, on the 7th of April 1870. Both children were strong and healthy. She was very fond of the children, particularly of the little girl. If any person did anything to the prisoner to offend her, she took it very much to heart and became dull and quiet. I knew her ways, and knowing the trouble under which she laboured, I tried to please her in everything. She was a good wife, and we lived very happily together. On Monday, 6th of March 1871, I left my house for my work. The mill is nearly opposite where I live, and about 2 minutes' walk from my house. She was in bed with the children when I left. I went home at 9 o'clock for breakfast. The prisoner was then up and had breakfast ready. I again left for work shortly before 10 o'clock, and I went back for dinner at 2 o'clock. She and the children were in the house and had dinner along with me. I noticed nothing out of the prisoner's usual at breakfast or dinner. At dinner time, I think she was as cheerful as I had ever seen her. I was back at my work before 3 o'clock, and I should have been home about 7 o'clock. About, I think, 6:30 o'clock, the witness, Robert White, came to the mill and told me that his son, Anthony, was outside and wanted to see me. I went out and saw Anthony, and he told me that the prisoner had been caught behind the counter in his father's shop, and that she had some soap and tea in her apron. He was in a rage. I had no suspicion that the prisoner would have done such a thing. Even yet, I cannot believe that she did take the tea and the soap. After talking over the matter, I said to the Whites that I would go and see the prisoner, and that if she had been in the wrong and had done what they had said, I would get her to admit her fault and to come and apologise. I left to go home, and just before getting to my house, I saw Mrs. Patterson coming running down screaming for someone to go to Eliza. I ran straight into my house and found Mrs. Crosby there. The prisoner was then beside the chest at the left-hand side of the doorway, and I saw my little boy sitting near the fire and his shirt all covered with blood. He had nothing else on. I ran forward to him and lifted him up. I saw that his throat was cut, and I put him into the bed. Some of the neighbours came in, and I saw that my little girl was lying in the floor dead with her throat cut. She had only on her shift. Her body was put in the bed. I then saw that the prisoner's throat was also cut, and Mrs. Crosby and I assisted her into the bed. We took the shift she was wearing off and put on a clean one. Dr. Buchan was the first one to come, and other doctors were afterwards got. I did not hear the prisoner speak. I think she was too severely cut to speak. My little boy died about 4:30 on the following day. The only thing I can assign for the prisoner having done what she has is her strong feeling by being charged with stealing, whether she was guilty or not. I am now shown a razor. It is my property. I generally kept it on a shelf above the door. After I found my children and the prisoner as above stated on the Monday night, I saw the razor lying on a chair at the fireside. It was all blood as is now. I also saw the letter now shown me. I cannot remember who showed it to me, but I know it to be the prisoner's handwriting. I never saw the prisoner the worse of drink. She could take a taste when we had any friends or were with any friends, but she never took to the extent to make her the worse of it. All truth, Samuel Clafton.